I think it's very important that people learn to consult the website and really try to work out what their essential nature is, their essential type, whether they are the person of the physical body, whether they are the person of the mind, or whether they are the person of the heart. It's from that point that the journey can really begin to look at the parts of centers that lead into the 9 basic Enneagram types. So go to the website, try to come to grips with that essential type, and then we move on to what I'd like to call the adaptive type. I think Gurdjieff often talked about the essence and the personality. Not that personality is a bad thing, but personality is very lopsided. It's almost as if we're in a car and we're stuck in one gear, and we've developed that gear from childhood, and we keep on driving in that gear no matter what. So we have an essential type, which is a little bit like the type of vehicle that we are. And I think for the most part that doesn't change. Hopefully we learn to get in touch with other parts of ourselves, but ultimately I think that essential bias that we have, our essential personality, remains the same. It is the personality, the adaptive part, that we can change. We can actually move within the centers. We can actually adapt. We can actually change the gear to use the right gear for the right circumstance. Instead of being like we are, very, very lopsided people, using the one gear no matter what. Well, using the material from Maurice Nicoll again, the part of the center that you're in is determined by attention, the way you hold attention. And it all derives from your early childhood. Basically, in the Gurdjieff material, if the world was bigger than you, the world outside you was bigger than you and you were overwhelmed, you moved to the mechanical part of the center. If you felt that you tried to be bigger than the world, you tried to rebel and resist, and that resistance sometimes may mean pulling back and having a type of shyness, an inner life where you showed passive resistance, you moved to the intellectual part of the center. If you tried to make a deal with the world, so the external world was not bigger than you and you were not bigger than the external world, it's almost like making a pact. You move to the emotional part of the center. Now, using the Enneagram symbol, it's very easy. The intellectual parts of the centers. The intellectual parts are type 8, type 5, and type 2. 8, 5, and 2. They're the intellectual parts of the center. The emotional parts of the center are the middle positions. They are type 6, type 9, and type 3. And the mechanical part of the center where you were overwhelmed becomes type 1, type 7, and type 4. Now, that has a lot of implications for the future. If we have learned to deal with the external objects in our lives through those 3 strategies, that really determines in our adult life how also we deal with the external world. So, if I'm a type 8 and I've chosen that in relationship to the objects outside me, I will always set the agenda. The external world and the external objects will never set the agenda. I will always be bigger than the external world. That can become a very entrenched position. And we can see how so many conflicts occur when we know people around us who have to be bigger than all other objects, including us. There's also those people that really like to be smaller all the time. They like the objects around them to set the agenda. And as long as there's a degree of security, they do what the external world dictates, which can give them an enormous sensitivity to art and to picking up culture and just absorbing the things around them. But basically, the external world sets the agenda. And we all know what it means to be in that middle position where you're always trying to keep pace and to match the external objects. Somehow, maybe having to pull back and find distance so you can actually not either be overwhelmed or overwhelm, maintaining the middle position. So I think we can change those parts. So if you're an 8, you can actually develop a strategy to allow you at times to be a 1 or a 9. But for most of us, we are locked, and we need to look at the way that we're locked and why we're locked, and sadly, the enormous implications of that locked script.